Good question.
She said she was having trouble getting her computer up.
Okay, Commissioner, it's ready to go.
All right, looks like we're ready to go. We'd like to welcome everyone to our Iron County Commission meeting this Monday, the 27th day of November, 2023. Appreciate your attendance. We will begin with an opening prayer offered by Curtis Crawford, and following that, we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Luke Little.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to Thee for the blessings that we receive each day. We're thankful for the privilege we have to live in this country and in this area that we're in. We pray that as a people we can work well together and to make it a better place. Grateful for our commissioners and other county leaders. We pray for them, for their responsibilities, and that they will make the right decisions, and Thy Spirit will be with them. Pray that Thou would bless our leaders of our country and other people throughout the world with much problems that are going on. We pray that hearts will be softened and Thy Spirit will bless those who are innocent and that they need the blessings and help that they so need and desire. Pray that Thou would bless us this day, that all be well, and that Thy Spirit will be in these meetings. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 All arise and please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Luke and Curtis. Appreciate that. We'll go ahead and we'll excuse Commissioner Blake today. He is out of town, and so we'll go ahead and approve the minutes, and we just have one set of minutes to approve, and these are older. They're September 25th minutes. We, I guess, missed approval of those. John was, believe he was ill that week, and we missed them. But so we're catching up a little bit. So I'll entertain a motion for the September 25th minutes of this meeting.
Okay, I would move for approval of the minutes from 9/25/2023.
I'll second that. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go ahead and approve the claims for payment from November 13th, 2023 to November 26th, 2023. Entertain a motion.
I will move for approval of claims for payment from November 13th, 2023 to November 26th, 2023.
It's a second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Departmental reports. We'll go ahead and go to our auditor, Luke.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
So, our office, we collect the Board of Equalization appeal packets. So when people appeal their value on their property, we have finished that process this year. And I wanted to thank Carrie Christensen for all of her efforts in that. She kind of takes it on and manages all the applications, keeps track of them, works a lot with the assessor's office and processing those and scheduling the hearings for people. So she's done a lot there. And next year we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to do a little bit more training with some other people in our office and give her a little more assistance in that. We've also finished collecting abatement applications. These are property tax abatements for low-income veterans, people that have disabilities, or blind. There's a blind abatement as well. So we finished collecting those, and next commission meeting, Cherisha is going to report on that. So you'll be hearing that information from her at that time. And she's also done a lot in that, so I want to thank her. I have spent a lot of time with each of the departments and the commission in the last 2 months working on putting the budget together for next year, 2024. So today we will be actually having the public hearing on that. So I'll be doing a presentation before the public hearing, and we'll be discussing, a lot of those items. And then the last thing is I just wanted to raise a little bit of awareness on checking your emails and verifying the email address and who it's coming from. We had a situation 2 weeks ago where we received an email with an invoice from one of our contractors on it to pay, and Michaela was emailing back and forth with the person, and somehow the email was intercepted by a third party, and they had taken our vendors, our vendor's name and kind of email, how their email appeared, and then it showed up as it was coming from the same person, but it was a different email address if you went and looked at the email address. And they were saying, oh, we're not going to accept checks, we want a wire transfer, which we sometimes do, not very often. And then they were saying, oh, we'll give you a 3% discount if you can pay it in the next week. So she thought she was talking to our vendor, and then that person actually came into our office, and they're like, what are you talking about? And they went and looked
lucky
at the email address. We weren't going to.
So interestingly, I got one of these last night. I was just going to put it on the screen.
Yeah, we weren't going to wire the money. We were going to say we still need to do a check. And so we had the check ready for that 3% discount. And the guy's like, what's this? And we showed him the emails. He's like, that's not coming from me.
Oh,
So
wow.
So just be careful in that. I receive emails all the time. I received one saying it was from Marilyn a few weeks ago, trying to get us to change her direct deposit and bank account number, saying they wanted to update it.
Wow.
So I get those pretty often, but every time I get them, I just check the email address because I know it's.
So this is a good example. So there's this, it's like Oh, this is from your, e-signature team, and they've sent you a document, and
Kindness.
and it's like, and they even got our logo, but like you can see the address is
Yeah.
garbage, and so
They make the name appear like it's
Yeah.
coming from, actually it says Maryland Wood,
yeah,
the name it's coming from, but
Right.
the email address is different.
it's tricky.
So
Ooh.
just want to, everyone just watch things like that. If they get something kind of a weird request, or, call and verify on the phone with the actual person. But, and so that's it. I'll be
Eat that.
talking later about the budget.
They're
Okay,
digging.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll go ahead and go to our Council on Aging. Curtis.
Thank you.
Well, just overall, we're doing good. Don't have any major issues. However, we did drop in our numbers during the summer months with our Meals on Wheels and congregate meals, and that's kind of normal thing as people drop off just a little bit. But then it's increased now, and we're doing a lot more than we did. Now we are, like I say, getting a lot busier. The cooks are even feeling that. As one explained the other day, she was cooking. She says, I can sure see a difference in our numbers because I have to increase. Said I used to open up 2 cans of this or whatever she was doing, and now it's 3, and so they can see that the numbers are definitely growing at both the centers, and so that's good. That's what we're trying to do. So our activities continue to grow in numbers as well, especially our exercise classes. And that's what we push the most. That's what we want them to do, is those physical activities. And the yoga class, for example, was meeting out in the park all summer long. And of course, they were increasing their numbers even during the summer, up to in the mid-20s, 25 or so. And also another exercise class we have is called Fit and Fab, and it's increasing as well, about in the same fashion. And so, let's see, we also had an activity that's really popular. It's called the Cookie Exchange, and that's where they bring their favorite recipe and dessert and exchange them. They provide a little lunch for them and a raffle and all that, and it's really popular. We get nearly 70 people attending those. And also the Parowan took their senior centers to the fall colors, and they all had a really good time. So our activities are very active. Both Parowan and Cedar are doing really good. Last month we had our annual health inspectors. That's a state health inspector. The Cedar and Parowan centers, both centers were in complete compliance with all the things inspected, and the inspector tells us all the time, he says, we really enjoy coming to these centers because they're always in compliance with everything. And we also are inspected every month by 5 county, the same type of thing. They go through and inspect our food and nutrition values and everything, and we're always in compliance there as well. Our bus services have grown tremendously this past year, especially in Cedar. Cedar's always lagged behind. You've never really got it to several years. It's just haven't had a lot. But this last month we had more people taking our buses than the 8 years that I've been the director, and it's just really been nice to see this type of growth. We kind of contribute that to we've been pushing real hard this year to make sure that the Meals on Wheels people that receive Meals on Wheels are getting it, like are the ones that qualify. are qualified for that. And so when they call and ask for Meals on Wheels, rather than just explain to them what Meals on Wheels are, we upsell our bus service and tell them what the real program is that we want them to come to the center, have lunch at the center, go to the activities, get out of the house, socialize with other people, and we're finding that since we've been upselling that's people are saying they didn't realize that we had those services, and so they're using the bus service, and so that's been a really good thing for us. We have 13 vehicles in our fleet. All vehicles are in good operating, are regular maintained. Just like to mention that we really appreciate Wade Adams and their group. They're kind of taking over and just taking care of our vehicles, and I've never had that before. I had to do that myself, and they're doing a great job, so we've really appreciated what they're doing for us. Also, we received 200 emergency meals this past year. This is furnished by the 5 counties. These are meals that are in a box. There's 3 meals in a box. And so we distribute them out in November normally, and then we encourage our patrons, Meals on Wheels people, to use those on an emergency when like on a snow day. If it snows really bad and it's real slick, then we close that service because we don't want to endanger our vehicles or the drivers and that sort of thing. And so that's working out really well. Our staffing is doing well. All the employees have great attitudes, getting along well, and are satisfied. And that's been nice. We've had a few problems in the past, but they're all doing really well. The buildings are doing good. No issues to report there. Building department did fix our leak problem, and they sealed that, and then they put some sandbags around it, things like that. So I think we're probably
So no more water.
water. It's just amazing.
So good to find.
Yay. That
A
was
little crack in
so
the sidewalk
frustrating.
just caused all that problem. Anyway, so we feel good about that.
That's great news. The floors, I mean, we got it's back and
Got
fine
it,
now. It's
yeah.
dried out. It's okay and
No,
everything's good.
I can't see any problem with it. So it's
But what do we do? Pull it up twice?
yeah, twice. Yeah, I guess yeah.
So
what it
but
was.
it's
Anyway, so we're glad to get that done. Yeah, everything's working good now. So.
that was-
Budget, we've received the latest budget a couple of weeks ago, and we were 4% below our percentage. One item that we're over, single item is a food category, which we expected because of the increase of people coming and Meals on Wheels, but I think we'll be okay. We'll just balance it out with other parts. And also, we received a grant this past last 6 months of a $10,000 grant. It's called SSBG, and we are actively drawing that down, and we'll have it drawn out by probably February, something like that. So, other than that, we're all doing good. Any questions or concerns?
No, good report.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate your
Curtis,
support.
appreciate you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
All right, we'll go to corrections. Shalon.
Doesn't matter.
Good job. You should get moved up.
All right, so our budget is looking pretty good. We're at 83%. I did want to show a couple of my lines that are a little high. So of course our overtime, it looks high. Lucas said it looks high. It actually looks really good for, if you go to my commission report on the second page, we have on long-term leave in the last few months, we've had 11 FMLAers and 1 military. So yes, we've had lots of babies. We have some that are on this new Extendo FMLA where they can use their leave throughout the year. And that really hurts us. So as far as our overtime line, it actually is looking really good for the year. Also, our pre-employment line has been up because we're continually hiring at the Aaron County Jail. So we have right now 4 vacancies. We were looking really good. We had on that second page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 graduate posts in the last 6 months. So the sheriff and I were out of town on our last commission report, so that kind of takes in 6 months there. Unfortunately, we had to terminate 2 of those already. Our food costs are kind of starting to even out a little bit, so we're happy to see that happening. Our numbers look a little odd on this page because so your fourth quarter, it's not done yet.
Which page are you on now?
Oh, right on the front page when you look at our total bookings and our transportation. Those are all low for the fourth quarter, but that's because we're not done with it yet.
Right.
So that's kind of why they are in there like that. Our work crew, they got a little break since the fair. Which isn't a lot of a break, but they've been working out at the shooting range, the animal shelter, working on our basement, also fencing, on the Iron Springs and the landfill, up at Wood Ranch and out at Three Peaks. So in the last 6 months, we've hired 4. We were able to promote Corporal Roundy in that time. And again, our long-term leave. Some of the events that we've been part of were our law enforcement, where on the front lawn, we do a law enforcement public relations event. We also did the trunk or treat, and we're going to be part of the Jubilee of Trees on Tuesday, tomorrow night. If you've never been to that, that's pretty cool. They put a law enforcement name on a tree, and then we draw out the winners of the tree, and then we're responsible to get that tree to their house, which is always fun. I went the other night, and my name's on a little tree, so I was pretty excited about that, because when you get the really big one, it's a challenge. So we have had some inspections. Those aren't included on there. We have a UDC inspection every month that they come through, and they have specific things that they're looking at. We did, it always looks good. The marshals came through last month, and then they did their annual inspection. And then we had our really big inspection, which comes from the Utah Sheriff's Association. And so we have a jail commander that comes over from San Juan County, and he was really impressed with the way this time he kind of followed my staff around, which was fun. So to watch our procedures and how we do things, and he was really proud of us and said that we did good. So that was good. He came on a Friday morning, so a lot of our administrative staff wasn't there, so that was really good to be able to have him be able to see that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions for me?
So we've got a lot more interest in this kind of career then, sounds like. People
Yeah,
going
I
to
mean,
Paul.
we're hoping. My last hiring roster, we didn't have a good turnout. We had about 11 apply and 4 show up for testing. So that was kind of discouraging.
Issue, right?
We're in the past for this year, we've actually done pretty well. This last one just I don't know what it was, but this one was a little bit short. But we'll put out another roster, and we'll keep them coming. We're a training ground.
Yeah. I had a question about those that we bring and we don't have room for, and they just get sent back out. Could we have some of those numbers in your next report?
So ones that, so a lot of times
No.
I mean, I can try. I'll figure out a way to run them, because a lot of times we'll take them, but it'll be the court that kicks them out. So to be able to pull those numbers may be hard, but I'll look to see, because what happens is we'll take them, and then when they see the judge will release them on their own recognizances.
Yeah.
So, but I'll see if I can find a way to run a report that will give me some good numbers.
Okay.
Just adding these numbers up, it's interesting as we've gone through this, this whole process of trying to build a new jail. Just adding up the numbers, Iron County had 380 bookings compared to Cedar City of 524. So I think it needs to be said over and over again that this jail issue is not a county problem. It's everybody's problem.
It's not. It is.
And it's Cedar City's, it's Utah Highway Patrol, it's the municipalities, unincorporated, everybody's problem. And so as we move forward with this process, we would appreciate support from these people to use it.
Absolutely.
Because we don't do booking. We don't do booking fees
Yeah. Nope.
as a county. We don't charge anything to book their inmates.
Nope.
So I just wanted to make
It's
that
our
clear.
responsibility, and we
Yep,
have
it's
to
our
take
responsibility.
care of them.
And I'm happy if anybody wants to reach out to me and I can talk to them and they can ask me questions and maybe I can help with some education on that exact thing.
Okay, thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thanks.
All right, let's see. Parks and Rec. Maria. You're Parks and Recs and Tourism.
Tourism. We're a little out of line, but it's okay.
Go whatever you want first.
We'll start
Keith?
with parks.
Okay.
It's just so exciting.
I know.
Okay, so Parks and Recreation, things are going really well. And we are now going into the slower season, which is good, but we are still busy because people still recreate in the wintertime. I did want to talk to you, bring up just a problem that we're having at the shooting range that I hope that we can coordinate with the BLM in regards to their airsoft range, which they built right next to the shooting range on the other side of the hill that separates our two ranges.
To the west or to
It's to the west.
west? Okay.
Yeah, southwest. So we're basically getting reports that people who are shooting in our range, the ricochet is ricocheting into the airsoft range. So
Why did they decide it was with all their NEPA and everything? Why did they put an airsoft range so close to
we don't know why. So we've put up some signs on our end to try to let people know that the range, the bays that are in question are the pistol ranges. So they're short ranges.
What are they ricocheting off of? I could understand maybe if they're shooting at steel plates, a long
a
range.
hard target? Yeah.
We don't know. We're not even sure if it's us, but we've had people calling and saying that something is that the jackets are ricocheting into the range on the other side of that ridge.
Yeah, that didn't seem like a very good spot for
Yeah.
that close to our range. Yeah.
So
Further north, in lining up with our ranges, is it further north or is it just west?
it's like southwest. So it's
back further.
yeah.
Not
So
downrange, but
it's-
the ricochet is a
the
concern.
ricochet is the concern. I don't think and
So have you talked to the BLM at all?
I talked to him and he was saying it's their recreation
issue?
person was saying, well, people are shooting up like this. And but we're kind of but we were here first and so we're not sure why you would think that was a good idea to put your range on the other side of an active range.
What is a soft?
So it's like paintball and plastic,
Oh.
those little soft air rifles. Yeah,
It's a whole thing.
it's a thing.
It is a?
Oh yeah.
I never heard of such
They
a thing.
run around trying to shoot each other. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Surely we could do. I mean, we've got acres and acres all around.
Do they have a
it.
lot of money invested in that range?
I don't know, but we have more money invested in our range, and
Yeah,
so
a lot of money.
we have a lot of money invested in our range, and so I just wanted to bring this to your attention because I think this is something that we want to discuss with them in our coordinating meeting.
Absolutely.
Because again, I'm not sure why they would have selected that spot, even if there
Probably
was
thinking
any
that
question.
it's a shooting thing, but if it's those soft things, that's not even close
Yeah.
to the same thing.
There's a difference.
There's a
We-
big difference.
There's a big difference.
We on BLM land, our shooting range?
We were
oh, no.
we were
We own it.
patented that land.
Okay, so was it
several
like an
years ago.
RPMP, like Three
Mhm.
Peaks? They
Yeah.
they deeded it over to the
Yeah,
county.
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it was long before I ever came.
So it's been a long time they've deeded that over to the county.
Yes,
And you said it was patented?
yes, it should be.
Yeah.
It was, as far as I know, it was patented to us.
We can look into that, but I mean,
Yeah.
like you say, the county had that established first, and we have lots of places we could do airsoft and
That
paintball.
just,
Yeah, and we
it
don't.
almost seems like it would be better over by the recreation area anyway, wouldn't it?
I would agree with you on that one.
Oh my heck.
And I don't want this to come across as we're discouraging that at any
No,
in any
no,
shape or
no,
form.
no,
We
I
want
think
those
it
kinds
sounds
of
great, yeah.
We want that kind of recreation. But if we've researched our we received our first complaint, I was like, I don't know. And then we received another one, and I'm like, okay, so something is not right. Obviously, there's something that we need to address. But like
You
I
talked
said,
to Dell then? Is that
it's
who you
not
talked-
Dell.
Oh,
it's
not
now
Dell.
Michael Enos and the BLM. So, and I think I don't know what is going on, but I do know that we probably should have this discussion with them when we have our
Or if
coordinating.
maybe sooner than later, because our next meeting isn't till,
Till March.
I don't know, March
Oh.
or something, yeah.
Anyway, well, on our end, we have put up signs saying this is a pistol bay, which means that it's short, short shoot.
Only,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're shooting at a shorter range, that they need to shoot at the berm, not shoot up. I mean, common sense, things like that. But again, I'm not sure why an airsoft range was put next to an actual shooting range.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Moving on, just reservations and camping fees collected so far. We're at a little over $14,000, which is about $2,700 more than last year at this time. Wood Ranch.
I know.
Take me a while. Is basically the water is shut down for the season, but we still have a winter season up there because people go up there to winter recreate. We keep one bathroom open, so that just helps us mitigate any kind of issues with people who are up there sledding and whatnot. 5 Mile, just basically we're on hold. We're waiting on the engineering for the water system. Once we get that, we can proceed with the Division of Water Quality to get that plan approved. We do have the individual picnic sites pretty much ready for spring opening, but we do still need to do some landscaping and install the group fire pit before we open. But we're still planning on that spring opening. And then Ryan Riddle will be burning slash piles up there this winter. Three Peaks, we just had the NICA High School Mountain Bike Championships, which brought over 4,000 people to Three Peaks. That was in October. We had no major problems reported, but there's always something that will happen. But that's quite a feat to host 4,000 people there in Three Peaks area. We want to express our appreciation again to the road department, the sheriff's office, and the VIPs for their assistance with the race, providing public, getting us that beautiful parking lot for the overflow and providing some law enforcement for us for that race. Since then, we've cleared an acre of sagebrush and trees for the new High Desert Trailhead, which is per Mike Worthen's request. Hopefully Ryan Riddle can burn some of the slash that's out there this winter. We've installed half of the fence around that new trailhead. We did have the jail crew out there working with us on the clearing and the fence building, which we greatly appreciate. We will need assistance from the road department in hauling some road base and grading the ground for the new trailhead. Mike Worthen will purchase the road base for that area from the state funding that he's put in for.
Okay.
So if we can coordinate that would
We
be
will.
great. Camping rates for Three Peaks will be raised to 15 starting in January, which will be more in line with what the BLM is charging for their campsites. And the water is off for the season. Shooting range, just right now is general weed and removal, cleanup and removal, and we're going to keep working on the sunshades this winter and install more shooting benches on the 1,000-yard range. We had to let go of our custodian this past month, and so right now we have Bryce doing our janitorial services until we can get that position filled. Do you have any
We're
questions?
working on that though.
Yeah.
It's out for, for people to apply for.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any questions regarding Parks and Recreation?
Nope.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so tourism, we're doing well there, which we're thrilled about because not everybody in the state of Utah is doing well. Our TRT collections are trending slightly higher than last year, and restaurant collections are up 13% over 2022 to date.
Wow.
Occupancy is up 7.8% over last year, and our average daily rate is up 3.2%.
What do you attribute that to, do you think?
Well, we hosted a lot of
Activities?
Events.
activities and events.
Do you think that's most of it?
I think that's a lot of it. I think we're still perceived as a good value. I think people, while vacationing, were making choices, and they were choosing places where they could get the most bang for their buck. And Southern Utah always remains a good place for families and for people who are just, wanting to get away. A lot of our neighbors rely again on international travel, and international travel has not returned to the level that it was in 2019 prior to the pandemic. And we don't rely so much on international travel. So I think we're in a good place, but we're still kind of cautious because you never know what's going to happen as people are definitely feeling inflation. We did receive a grant from the Utah Office of Tourism for off-season marketing in the amount of $144,500 from them, which will be matched by our TRT revenues, giving us $289,000 total. And that will be for off-season. So that's for marketing from the months of October through May. I've also submitted for a grant for $6,000 for assistance with our Utah Film Ready program. That's for us to support films being shot in Iron County. We've actually had a film shot in the last couple of weeks. It was a horror film shot in Brian Head. So we're excited about being part of that program. Right now we're in holiday mode, so we have a holiday campaign out there. Part of our campaign includes a digital passport where locals and visitors can visit various businesses and holiday light locations to earn points for prizes.
I heard that on the radio
On the
this morning
radio?
on the way over.
Did they pronounce Paraguna correctly? We've had to,
I didn't notice that it wasn't, so it must be.
okay. We've had to have that commercial redone 4 times because of Paraguna. We're hoping that this campaign will encourage more people to visit and shop local this holiday season. Our earned media to date, we've had 176 positive media mentions to date, equaling $53 million in advertising value equivalent. Mentions include MSN, Travel, World Atlas, AOL News, and recent and a really great one in Forbes, where they listed Brian Head as the #1 ski destination for value, and so that's a big deal.
Brian Head's exploding. It's I've never seen anything like it up there. I mean,
It is
my son is
crazy.
doing a lot of work in his business up there, and it's there's,
The
we've
building is just
it's
crazy,
yeah,
isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, I drive up there and
It's
with the new-
beautiful up
it's
there.
Really nice.
I
It's-
think Brian Head is going to be a completely different place within 5 years.
oh, yes. And then people are coming in with big money. Up
With
there.
big money, and hopefully we have the things in place, the infrastructure in place to support
Yes.
all that.
Yes.
But we're excited for everything that they're doing up there.
I think you'll see everybody around. I mean, Cedar, Parowan, everybody benefit from that too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
come off the hill to spend money. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yes, we're thrilled. Our new website launched in November. I just want to say thank you to my staff, Kaylee and Amber, particularly. This was a big ask on our part. It was a big project on our part. But we're excited about what this website can do. We actually have a lot more control on the back end, and we can, it's just far more dynamic and easy for us to change very quickly. There's no lag time if we have any issues, and we can make those changes quickly. So, and then our new videographer, Dallas Smith, he's really become a great asset. He's built our library and our videos, and you can see, I've given you a link where you can see a lot of what he's been working on. It's posted on our YouTube channel. Our contract for our advertising agency has come to an end, and so we'll be putting out an RFP shortly for a new agency to help us with our placement of our digital marketing. So we do a lot in-house in terms of the creative, the creation of the creative, but it does help to have an agency help us with the placement of all of our marketing activities. Last thing on here is the Tourism Advisory Board met earlier this month to review the 2024 applications for advertising money and this is applications from various organizations and events. I've given you a list of what they are recommending in terms of allocations. So the Utah Shakespeare Festival and the Utah Summer Games are budget line items. And so so they have a place on our budget. You can see where we've allocated what we're recommending is allocating $80,000 to the Shakespeare Festival and $65,000 to the Utah Summer Games. We had several special event requests from various events, from the Wine Festival to We Rock, the Home Builders Association. The total allocation that we're recommending is $74,550. And then contributions are those entities that are either providing visitor services like a visitor center, or they're putting on more than 10 days worth of events throughout the year. And so that includes like SUMA, the Frontier Homestead. It also includes the airport, and the total allocation is $125,000 to those various contributing partners. And then lastly is just for your information, we have partnered with Economic Development on Placer AI software, which is we're currently training on right now. Placer AI is a location analytics software that studies visit trends, trade areas, and demographics. It's very, very robust. It basically tells us, at least on the tourism end, where people are coming from, where they're coming from, where they're going, where they're spending their time. So we're actually able to get quite a bit of really granular data in terms of our visitation. Economic Development is using it in terms of, what's the leakage, where are some areas in retail that we could possibly be attracting based on demographic information. This is cellular data, so it's basically based on a person's cellular phone being in that location, and then it's counted after 2 minutes. So it can't just be somebody driving on the interstate. They actually have to be within that location for more than 2 minutes before it's actually counted in the data. It is so robust. I mean, it's a long time in terms of training and understanding, but it's really great because we meet with them every 2 weeks, and we just continue to dial in. So I'm very excited about this. This is a game changer for us in terms of data. Okay, any other questions?
I have a question. Could you talk a little bit about how your budget works, how this money, it sounds like a ton of money.
Yes, and I was going to bring that up.
It doesn't come out of the
So as far as
Our budget.
yeah, as far as tourism is concerned, our budget comes from transient room tax, which is the 4.25% tax on every room night sold in Iron County. It is paid for by people who visit. It is not paid for by actual people who live here. And it's legislated. So it is legislated by Utah, state of Utah, in terms of the ways that it can be spent. And so a majority of it has to be spent on marketing, advertising, promotion, meaning
Very restrictive.
very restrictive. It has to do what it is intended to do, which is to bring more people or more money into Iron County from visitation. It can be utilized to construct infrastructure, but it has to be visitor infrastructure, meaning it can be parks, it can be recreation related, it can be visitor centers, it can be convention facilities, but it cannot be used
For
on a
anything
jail
else.
for say.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
They are
I know.
visitors.
And I said that in a Rotary.
Getting a lot of tourism dollars.
It's not exactly the visitors. They are visitors, but they're not exactly our visitors. So it's a visitor, and the transient room tax is collected on a room night up to 30 days. Anyone that stays like in a hotel past 30 days, they become basically a resident. And so they are not collecting tax. The other tax that we work from is the restaurant tax, which is a 1% tax on all prepared food in Iron County.
So
And-
you're funded with TRT or TRCC as well.
I have some TRCC, which we have, and on both of those funds, we have advisory boards who advise us as to how we should spend those dollars.
Which are local folks.
Yes,
That-
they have to
businesses
represent those entities. So, like our TRCC or Restaurant Tax Board, the majority of those those board members have to represent restaurants.
Restaurants.
So, and then on our TRT board, majority of them represent lodging. So, it's they're complicated taxes, but they are taxes that are generally not paid by local. They are not paid by local citizens generally. So, and they benefit, particularly like restaurant tax, even though we have locals who go to restaurants and we have visitors who go to restaurants. Those taxes have to be spent on tourism, recreation, cultural, convention, airport facilities. But those are things that not only visitors can enjoy, the locals can enjoy as well. But that one, restaurant tax, is generally used for infrastructure, building buildings, building trails, recreation areas, that kind of stuff.
Thank you. No, that was really a good explanation.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Any other
Maria.
questions?
I think it's important that people know that.
Yep.
in the
Good job.
county.
Thank you, Maria.
Yep,
Appreciate
thanks,
you.
Maria.
All right, Sheriff.
So I left my thumb drive in my computer. Oh, shoot. You can email it to me if you like.
Thank you.
You.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
Let me just go ahead and start with our budget. Our budget is at about 84% overall. The two big areas that we're over, as was expected when we talked about it at the beginning of the year, overtime and fuel prices. So those are the two areas that we really just don't have a whole lot of control over. And we knew that we'd be over in those two areas. So.
Nice to see fuel dropping, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Dropping a lot.
Yeah.
But they said
And
this
hopefully it
morning
keeps dropping.
15% higher than everybody else in Utah. And Utah is Iron County.
Yeah.
It said that on the news
Did it?
on my way over.
So hopefully it'll continue to drop.
Yeah, that'll be good.
On current law enforcement issues, we've been talking throughout this whole gel campaign that crime rate is going up in Iron County, and I think the numbers here support that. You know, last year we talked about how we had 24 call-outs for the SWAT team over the year, and that was markedly up from the previous year, which was markedly up from the previous year before that, which was markedly up from the previous year before that. And this year is no different. So far we've had 31 call-outs year to date, you know, which is considerably higher than 24 last year. And I think some of the other things that we're going to talk about today are going to show that with the growth of our community, that it's becoming more violent as well, and that's a problem. Drug Task Force is very active. We're still seeing a lot of fentanyl cases. One of the, you know, as we talked in the past, one of the things that we're seeing now is that fentanyl is also being mixed with xylazine, which is an animal tranquilizer. So Narcan doesn't necessarily work when you have a drug overdose, and we've been able to hit somebody with Narcan and bring him back as an opioid blocker. Now, if the xylazine is mixed in it, we can't necessarily get them back because the Narcan doesn't block the xylazine. Meth is on the rise again, and one of the interesting things is we're starting to see more cocaine and heroin. One of our traffic units, or a canine unit, did a drug sniff on a vehicle in conjunction with the highway patrol traffic stop. They recovered a pipeline consisting of 55 pounds of methamphetamine, 4 pounds of fentanyl, which, again, when you talk about fentanyl, every other drug is measured in grams. Fentanyl is measured in grains. So if you take the equivalent of 7 grains of salt and put that in fentanyl, that's a lethal dose. So when you take 7 grains of fentanyl and multiply it by 2 pounds, we could kill everybody in the county with that amount of fentanyl. It's a huge issue. They also recovered 2 pounds of heroin and 1 gram of cocaine, which was the mule's personal use. Highway Patrol is in Iron County is interdicting pipelines. I've written down monthly, but if you really look at the SIAC reports, it's probably weekly right now that they're interdicting pipelines. And the 2 hot spots in the state is Iron County and Sevier County on I-70. Those 2 counties are getting more pipelines than any place else in the state, and it's very, very consistent. You know, the border is still a huge problem for us. You know, we're still seeing the drugs just flowing over the border. You know, and as I talk with my friends down on the border, they have no idea what's coming across. So when we look at the terrorism that took place in Israel, you know, we don't know if we're going to have similar things happen here or not. So we don't have any idea what's coming into our country. As far as legislation, while we were down at the Association of Counties meeting, one of the things that we talked about was legislation that we can expect to see this year. And last year, as you know, there was a bill passed that puts the sheriff responsible for coordinating the security of school security. And there is going to be another bill that is introduced this year that, if it's passed, is going to basically give more responsibility to the sheriff in regards to school security.
These unfunded mandates, as usual.
Probably. You know,
that was my question down when I was down there. I said, you know, the state's pretty famous about bringing new mandates for us, but they usually don't fund them.
Right.
They usually let us take care of them. But
no, they're last year with the bill, they did provide, I think it was $76 million, I think, which
total,
which
the whole state.
Which the districts were able to apply for grants towards their school security issues. Whether that's going to be increased this year or not, I don't know. We'll have to see. But one of the things that they're looking at in this new legislation is probably going to require the hiring of another deputy that basically their sole job is going to be coordinating school security and being kind of the point of contact to work with the school districts, school safety officer, and the state school safety officer, coordinating all those efforts to, make sure that we're continuing to move forward in a.
They talked
positive
about
manner.
having one in every school. Is
Well,
that something that's going to
different.
happen?
That's
Yeah.
different. So that's talking about school resource
Volunteers.
officers. And
Volunteer ones.
so what they're talking about is they have in this new bill they're talking about, as I understand it, 3 different things that they can do for schools. They can either have a school resource officer, or they can have what they call a guardian, or they can have school security that's hired, private security that's hired to provide school security. And it's kind of up to the school districts as to what route they go and what they do. But they want the sheriff's offices to provide 84 hours of training a year to those people,
A lot.
which, we have to provide 40 hours of training per year to our deputies, plus an additional 16 hours, so 56 hours of training a year for our deputies, which is a huge lift. And now they're wanting us to take on another 84 hours of training specifically for school resource officers, guardians, contract security, whatever it is, that's huge. That is a huge undertaking. And again, is going to cost us money to do. We'll end up having to have really a full-time deputies doing really nothing but training,
Yeah.
putting together training plans, finding the locations for training, doing the trainings, coordinating all that. There's a lot that's going on there that they're looking for, and
Probably ought to talk to the legislature about having the school district help fund those things.
yeah,
Help
So-
the county offset some of those costs.
right. So there's, what that, those were all concerns that we brought up as the sheriffs to the legislature that's sponsoring the bill. Where it goes, it's still a long way out.
Yeah.
With the,
Is it still in
The
committee? Do you
legislation.
know where the bill is?
I don't know. I'm not sure where it
Who's
is yet.
sponsoring it?
Will Cox. So that one's huge. That's something that we're going to be watching very closely. Continuing on, just look at some of the things that we have. The first number is our current year-to-date stats. The second number is what I reported last time I gave a report to the commission. So if you look at aggravated assaults, currently 18-8 previously. When you look at that, we've had just crazy things happen this year, and it started right off the beginning of the year with the homicide suicide in Enoch. And even though that was a Enoch case, the sheriff's office helped extensively with that. Following that, we had 2 drive-by shootings on a house out off of Mid-Valley Road. We made all those arrests, and because a lot of them were juveniles, all those juveniles have been released. We had another case that was an ambush, which was committed by the same juveniles, where they shot up a guy in a van out at Three Peaks trying to take over his drug market. We had a female that was tried to do a suicide by cop, threatened a 19-year-old male with a firearm. When our deputies arrived, she engaged them, fired 2 rounds at them. They returned fire, shot her, and then saved her life. And now she's out. We've had the shooting out in Burl, where a property owner shot his ex-wife's boyfriend, and there's a lot of differentiation between the two stories as to what happened. I don't know if we'll ever figure out what really happened in that particular case. In that case in Newcastle, where 3 brothers got intoxicated and got in a fight, and one of them started shooting at the other 2. We resolved that. We had a homicide out in Hamblin Valley. So we've just had a lot going on this year, and we're seeing an increase in weapons offenses in the county. Give you an example: aggravated assaults on law enforcement, 8 this year. Were 3 previously. Simple assaults, 49. Air support, we've had 11, or we had 3 last time. Agency assists, we're up to 377. Burglaries, 36. One of the burglaries that we had this year was a huge case out in Burl on a compound that we ended up getting a search warrant for and taking down. On that particular case, we recovered 23 stolen vehicles and resolved 28 law enforcement cases from 3 different states. And again, these are all people that have moved in to Iron County from outside. Fires have been pretty substantial this year. We've had 47 and had no less than 3 houses that have burned completely to the ground, all out in the Burl area. Canine, we've had 76 canine cases so far this year, 8 mental health unit cases, 911 misdemeanor offenses, 1,472 other offenses, public relations 17, search and rescue 16, sex crimes against a child 11. We've got some huge cases right now on sexual cases against children. One of them was a husband and wife. They were both arrested, both were charged. The husband just pled yesterday to 40 years to life. We're still waiting on the wife. We had an ICAC investigation last week where we arrested a male who had over 1,000 child porn images on his devices. Other sex crimes, 137, welfare checks 40, drug cases 219, DUIs 50, animal problems 263. Just in reports alone, not calls for service, but just for reports alone, we've had 6,620 this year, and last year we had 4,308. So you can see that our crime rate is going up.
What's that percentage of increase in crime?
I haven't even figured it out, but about a third, about probably 30%.
Substantial.
30%.
So I've been meaning to ask this for a while, but how is morale? With the
Well, our morale is good, but we just got our butts handed to us on the bond election for the jail, and I hope the community's prepared for what they voted for, because the crime rate is going up and we have no place to put them. And they just sent a message nationwide that said, if you want to commit crime, come to Iron County. We don't care. So, I think that's something that the public needs to be prepared for. Is sometimes exercising our right to vote has unintended consequences. And one of the unintended consequences is our crime rate is going to continue to soar until we have a new facility where we can keep people locked up. And that's just the bottom line. The problem has not gone away. It is here to stay until we get a new facility, period. And it's up to the public to understand that and to support us in getting this. They asked us to trust them. We trusted them, and they shot us down. So now I hope that they're prepared for the unintended consequences for the choices that they made, because it's squarely on their shoulders. Right now we're down 1 deputy. On the law enforcement side, we had a deputy that left to go to a federal agency. And we have one that's currently in FTO. Deputy O'Malley that we hired from Lincoln County and purchased his K9. They're doing well. I don't think that they'll be on FTO too much longer. That dog team's doing very well. You know, we also have one detective position that's open still that requires 5 years of experience. It's open to outside. We just haven't found anybody qualified yet. And really, that's about it. We had a secretary that left, and we've hired Secretary Megan to replace her. So other than that, we're in pretty good shape.
I've got a couple comments, Sheriff.
Please.
So I went down and attended. I had my UAC board meeting a while back, and I went down early to go to this Joint Jails Committee meeting.
Right.
And it was really interesting. And they talked a lot about crime. They talked about how JRI has been a complete failure,
right,
and how the pendulum has swung so far that the pendulum's coming back with people that are fed up with crime and want to do something about it. And it kind of goes to your comment with the jail. It's unfortunate that our bond failed because I talked to bond counsel, and as folks probably know, truth in taxation is much higher interest rate, and it never drops off. And that you may have a commission down the road that may take that, lower the taxes, they may not. But jail bond is much less expensive, and I asked bond counsel, even if we were to take a pot off, which the public seems to want us to do, because of the increased cost of interest rate with the truth in taxation, even if we took one pot off, it's probably going to cost just as much as what we just voted on.
Right.
A 2-pot facility. So.
Right, and that's exactly true. And you know, and part of when you look at these other counties that have built one pod, all of them are regretting it because their facilities are already full. They're already using their intake area for other things, for female housing, for medical, for other things, because they're out of room.
Well, if you look at Purgatory, my understanding is they purchased that facility 14 years ago, and they've been adding on every year since.
Every single year since,
and
including this year.
Yeah, and it hasn't been master planned. They haven't really been able to, because of it, look ahead and design it the way it should have been.
Right.
And so they're to feed their inmates, they're taking golf carts and food, and it's not efficient at all what they're trying to do. And
it's
so
much more staff intensive than properly preparing and planning for it. And that's what we've tried to do, is we've tried to plan not for just here and now, but for the future, and be able to properly plan so that we could make it as efficient as possible and meet the needs and help remove the burden from the taxpayer. But,
yeah. Well,
it is.
And since you're on the subject, I'll just make this statement. This is just me speaking as one commissioner, but I've learned this lesson, and most people will learn this over the years. But one of my favorite quotes is, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten."
Yep.
And if the public wants to build a piece of crap, I'm not their guy.
Yeah.
I'm not. They can elect
Well,
somebody. They can elect somebody else to do it, because
there's-
I'm not going to.
There's a great example of that. Juab County is in the same boat as we are, and their jail is actually newer than ours. But when they built theirs, their contractor left midstream, so they had to bring in another contractor. They were trying to cut corners. Well, now it's falling to pieces, just like ours, but ours is because of being old. But they're in the exact same, and they were going to go with the cities and the highway patrol and all that and go together. Well, they've all pulled out, so they're just in the same boat as we are, as far as we got to have funding, and there's no other funding stream. So
I received 2 emails I forwarded to you from Sheriff Glover from Kane County, and it was talking about, it was really interesting what they talked about, because there's been a lot of people in Aaron County say that it's too big. Well, it is big. It's big enough to grow into and plan ahead. But even if you built that second pod now for the cost now, you could mothball that for 5 years, or probably even 10, and be money ahead, and just not even use it until you need it, right? But because it's $20 million now, down in 10 years, if we build that, it's going to be $40 million
At least.
And the thing that was interesting with these emails that Tracy sent me, and we won't take the time to read them, but The state of Utah built their prison is 3,600 beds, and the one they replaced was 4,000. So it's smaller than the one they replaced, and they're having staffing problems.
Which
It's-
they talked about them sending them out to the counties. That's exactly what they're planning on.
Right.
So they're having staffing problems, and they're counting on the counties to help them. And I think the new number for contract inmates that they want counties to help them with is, what is it, 1,600 now? I think is what they brought up in that meeting. The numbers are increasing, and so they're counting on counties to help them incarcerate these inmates. And so
And they always have.
right,
They've
right.
always
Always
counted
done.
on counties to help them, but it's just continuing to increase, and that's partially due to JRI, because, you know, the chiefs and sheriffs opposed JRI in 2015 when it was first adopted. We saw that it was a failed policy in Georgia. We saw that it was a failed policy in California and other liberal states. You know, we went to the legislature and said, "Why are you looking at adopting this? This is a failed policy," and they adopted it anyway. And it's done everything that we've told them that it would do. You know, instead of crime rate going down, instead of getting help for drug offenders and doing all the things that JRI was meant to do, which in its concept, it's not a bad thing, but in its application, it doesn't work. And in part is because the state was supposed to take all the money that they saved from housing violent offenders, or from only housing violent offenders, and saving that money because they decriminalized a lot of the drug crimes from felonies to misdemeanors, pushing them into the jails rather than into the state penitentiary. They thought that they were going to have a huge cost savings. And as a result, now where we hardly ever saw guns involved with drug cases, now we see guns in almost every drug case. Maybe not every drug case, but in a lot of drug cases we see guns involved, which makes it a violent felony. And they're right back in the state penitentiary. And the state can't keep up with it. And, it's a failed policy. We knew it was going to be a failed policy. It failed every place else. It still is a failed policy. I guess if there's a silver lining, I've had several legislatures tell me this year to expect to see some changes to JRI, which I'm hopeful for. I've been personally fighting it for the last several years. The sheriffs and the chiefs have been unitedly fighting it for the last several years, and hopefully legislation has finally figured it out that it doesn't work and that they've got to do something dramatically different. So we'll see what happens this year in legislation.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions that I can answer?
The morning after the bond failed, and I was going to talk about this in my report, we got on a Zoom call with the contractor and the architect, all of us, and discussed where do we go forward now. A lot of those contractors that were ready to go with us may not be available next year or the year after. I mean, we can put that back out. There's, they'll be they'll be contractors, I'm sure. But so I thought, when we got off the phone call, I thought, we need to really push forward with Rex's bill on a consumption tax. And I called him, and he said, we're ready to go. And he said, I've filed the bill. It's just looking to see what the cost of it would be. I called Ken. We talked about it. I called Evan Vickers, and he is willing to help us with this. We'll probably need to go to the legislature and testify at some of the committee meetings to be able to push this forward. It's just a matter, we think we'll be able to maybe fund the jail with that if we get it passed. And that's, we need the cooperation of the community to help us with that. If that's, what we're able to do, through the legislature this year, but it'll still be, the jail won't be for another year because we'll have to go through a vote also a year from now to on the, Rex said that we would have to have that to be able to get the bill passed.
Was the earliest possible funding January of 25?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was only, but I think this would only raise about half the money to pay for the jail.
Well,
I mean, you could go higher,
we
but
could go higher,
Oh,
but
that'd be-
we're just going to have to look at the numbers and see if it's, available to where we can do that. I think a lot of the folks said that they would be willing to vote for that, where they wasn't on the property tax, thinking that it would, other people would help pay for that, as far as people that rent and even people that come in with the tourism tax. We would also, that sales tax would also go on that. The folks that are struggling, it would be probably a better way for them, because they probably don't spend as much money as more wealthy people, buying cars and different things. So, that's something we'll go forward. If we don't get it passed, we'll probably need to come back with truth in taxation. So if the residents really feel strongly about that, we need to push that forward.
And we really appreciate Rex and being willing to be flexible on that. Like you mentioned, there's just no other revenue stream as we reached out to the governor's office and the legislature, and I even pressed hard on my contacts in the lieutenant governor's office, and there just isn't much available. And historically, they're typically have been paid for with
Yeah,
a bond.
I spent a lot of time on the phone that morning afterward. Carl Albrecht is in Hawaii, and he'll call me this week. But Evan said, have you reached out to UAC, Utah Association of Counties? And I hadn't, so I did, and I talked to Brandy Grace, which is the CEO of UAC, and she was very happy to help, to push it forward. She knew that the JUAB folks also need a stream like this, and so that's something that we just need to really go forward with. And
Well, and there's going to be other counties in the future that need it as
yes,
well.
absolutely. Those that want to build another pod, and another thing I wanted to talk about was the pod. So if you bring a company in to pour that pod situation, that's the reason why it would go up so much too, is because they bring all the equipment. They have to have cranes and all of that type of thing. So to bring all of that equipment to stage it again would be so more expensive than doing, even if we built the second pod and just mothballed it, like Paul said, or just shelled it. It would be worth it to do the cement work on both of them at the same time, because that's really a high cost to the county to have to bring that equipment back in to do that. So.
Well, we're way over time, but I'd like to make another statement while we're on this subject. It's been frustrating in this process seeing people criticize us for doing this when interest rates are high. Well, I'd like to remind them that we started this process. We were really serious about it 3 years ago. I mean, we had an offer on land that was a third. Actually, it was I think it was $27,000 an acre, and we had to pay $75 for and it is a better piece of property than one we bought now, but it was $27,000 an acre, and interest rates were at a historic low, and we were moving fast back when Dan Jessen was our auditor. We were moving fast on this property because we wanted to capture that low interest rate and lock this in and get it going, and the NIMBYs killed it.
Not in my backyard.
Yep. and I talked to bond counsel, and our payment would have been $4.6 million a year for a 2-pod facility back then. Now it's 5.6. So basically, on a 30-year note, that's cost the taxpayers $30 million. And so we did try to do this when interest rates were low, and that needs to be said, because we did we've been talking about this for the last, in the county, they've been talking about this for the last 10 years. When I was running for office 6 years ago, they were talking about, they just had SUU do it, and we brought this all up in meetings, but they had a study done by SUU to look at 4 different sites, and none of them really panned out. But so I think this needs to be brought up over and over again, that we have tried, and it's been interesting that some of the NIMBYs that were against it were later for it, right? That kind of created the problems of us moving forward.
Education was
But we were accused
helpful.
of trying to sneak something through and be nefarious in our process, and it wasn't the case. We were trying to capture that low interest rate. Now we're seeing historic highs on interest rates, and it's going to cost the taxpayer a lot of money.
It is, and it's one thing I think that is really a shame is the number of people in Iron County that have refused to educate themselves, but have chosen to listen to self-proclaimed experts who have no expertise at all and no basis of making the claims that they've claimed, and have completely refused to listen to those of us who have invested our entire lives into taking care of our communities and providing law enforcement services and jail services. I mean, we've done our homework. We have the answers. But if people refuse to be ignorant, there's nothing that we can do about that. We've provided the information. We've offered people to come on tours of the jail. We've had multiple public hearings. We've had multiple town hall meetings. It's a shame when Burl has over 50 people at a town hall meeting, but you have 4 from Enoch and 11 from Cedar City. And that's just the antipathy of what's going on about this. And it's like I said before, people better wake up, because this is going to affect the safety and security of their neighborhoods, of their homes, of their families, and it's their fault.
Sheriff, and I thought, and we're going to be, we'll get roasted for this comment, but without mentioning names, can we actually list the inmates that are released early and their offenses, and how much early they're released, and do an update for the public?
I don't know if we can do that or not. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's controlled by the courts.
Yeah.
So,
Very good.
So.
Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank you.
report.
Thanks, Ken.
Marilyn, do you have other things you want
Well, the main thing was that UAC was in St. George, Utah Association of Counties, their convention, and it's always really good to visit with the other commissioners, see what their issues are, what we need to work on. We always have great public land. We had a really good one, a history on the public lands, really interesting. Homelessness, school security, predator control, just a lot of different issues that we deal with daily as commissioners, and it was really good. I didn't stay down there. I drove back and forth. We get criticized sometimes for spending too much money, but our county is very frugal that way as far as not spending a lot of money for training and things like that. I did want to mention the Children's Justice Center, Dancing with the Community Stars. That's always a great fundraiser, and thanks to the Friends Board, the CJC Friends Board that put that on, and it's always a great event. I believe they said they raised $85,000, which is just amazing, and that will go to the new.
Was that a record? I thought I heard.
I think it was a record. Yeah, I think they did say that, and they have. We broke ground for the new CJC Center, and they've poured footings and getting ready to go on that. So that'll help with that going forward. think that was probably all I had today.
I'll be very brief. We had a meeting with the DNR this Reed Erickson and Nate Moses and Terry Palmer. We met, talked about water rights and different things. We ended up leaving things the way they were as we reviewed those things. We just got to be really careful with the water priority dates in the at least in the Cedar Basin. Parowan's over here in this valley is going through what we did about 4 years ago, and we just want to make sure that people, even though buyer beware is something that people need to be aware of, we want to make sure and protect, that a developer doesn't come in and develop a subdivision with low priority water, and those people that maybe unsuspectingly buy those properties lose their water with one of these. What's the term, Reed? When the state says it's up, time's up, you're not able to use water anymore, and so that was a meeting we had. Like I mentioned, we had a UAC board of directors meeting, and then I had my 5 county meetings, which was steering and behavioral health this last time. So I'll just be brief with that report. We'll go ahead and we're way over time. Apologize to the public for that, but good discussions. What's that?
Take 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's do 5-minute break, and then we'll start at 10:30 with our other meeting.
It's up.
That's us. Okay.
Ready to go? All right, we'll begin our next meeting. We're running late, but appreciate everybody's patience. We'll begin with the agenda item number 1, and which is a public hearing regarding the 2024 proposed final budget. And you want to introduce it first, Luke, and then we'll open it up for a public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll kind of go over some things, and then we'll have the public hearing open after. Okay, so yeah, my name is Lucas Little. I'm the county auditor. This year's my first year, so bear with me on the presentation. I was kind of looking at last year's and doing something similar, some things different. So we'll go through it and let me know if you have any questions throughout it. Okay, so looking back at 2023 and how this year's kind of turned out, and then looking forward to how those effects are going to have an effect on 2024. So inflation has been slowing throughout the year. And the last few months it's kind of begun to level out. The unemployment rate in Utah remains at all-time lows. It has gone up a little bit, but it is still really low. Throughout this year, interest rates have rapidly increased. There were no property tax increases countywide this year. And within the county, there's a couple different funds that collect property taxes. There's our general fund rate, and then we also have our municipal services fund, which is anybody that lives outside of a city, that lives within the county itself, but not inside a city. So there's that fund. And then there's the assessing and collecting fund. So the county collects for all property taxes. Those are the ones that the treasurer then distributes to the county itself. They also collect for all of the cities, the Water Conservancy District, and a little bit for the state school district. And then the treasurer just sends that money directly to them. So that even those funds within the county and then all of the other funds, even the city, the school district, there were no truth in taxation this year. So that was a good thing. At the end of 2022, our fund balances increased. So our revenue was higher than we had expected the last 2 years, and our fund balances have been increasing. And I'll show a graph on that later. So the reason I bring up these economic factors is because some of the county revenue sources are based on the economy. So they fluctuate depending on how the economy is doing. Okay, here we're looking at inflation over the last 3 years. As you can tell, in 2023, inflation has been coming down. And the last few months, it's been hanging around right around 3%. And over the last 2 years, when inflation was really increasing and costs of goods and supplies were going up, that increases our sales tax revenue, because as things cost more, the more sales tax is collected. So that's one thing that has affected some of our revenue sources. And as we look at those, looking at the year 2021 and 2022, you can see that there were pretty large increases in the sales tax revenue those years. In 2023, our revenue in our general fund is a little bit higher than it was in 2022. So there's a smaller increase, and that's partly due to that inflation coming down. In our municipal services fund, there on the right, there was also large increases over the last 2 years. In 2023, a smaller increase. So for next year, I have budgeted 1.5% to 2.5% increase, and that is based on the economy, interest rates kind of staying high for the foreseeable future, and inflation kind of hovering around that 2 to 3% inflation rate. This is the Fed funds rate. So looking at that historically, it goes up and down. And I want to read this. It kind of explains what this Fed funds rate is. So the federal funds rate is the central interest rate in the U.S. financial market. It influences other interest rates, such as the prime rate, which is the rate banks charge their customers with higher credit ratings. Additionally, the federal funds rate indirectly influences longer-term interest rates, such as mortgages, loans, and savings, all of which are very important to the consumer wealth and confidence. So as you see this rate at the end of 2022, it really went up. The Fed increased this rate to combat inflation. And going back to the inflation graph, as inflation came down, that Fed funds rate was increased. So it goes up, interest rates go up, and that brings inflation down. There was also this statement in 2022 to combat inflation, the Fed started raising its rate, which is a process that continues into 2023. In March 2022, the target rate was between 0 and 0.25%. On July 26, 2023, the target Fed funds rate was set between 5.25 and 5.5%. The group said that increase was necessary to meet its target of maximum employment and a 2% inflation rate. So where inflation's at about 3% and they're wanting to get it down to about 2%, it looks like interest rates will probably stay kind of where they are, maybe go up a little bit more, stay there for the foreseeable future. And then that Fed funds rate going up, you can see how it affects mortgage interest rates. We all know we were at record low mortgage interest rates. I think when I refinanced my house, I got a 2.5% interest rate, and now that's 7 to 8%. So that's where that's been hanging out for the last couple months. Home values in Utah, we had the huge spike kind of during COVID, and it has come down a little bit, but it's stayed pretty level the last year. And look how that affects some of our revenue sources. So some of our revenue is pretty volatile. Our recorder's fees, which comes from properties being sold, transferred, new homes being bought, and our recorder's fees really skyrocketed in 2020 through 2022. And then this year we're projected to do that lower amount, kind of back to where we were before the boom during COVID happened. So we are going to come in under budget this year with our recording fees from what was projected. Next year, I've budgeted $525,000, which is going to be pretty similar to what it is this year. So if the market stays about the same, interest rates kind of stay up, about the same number of transactions occur, then our revenue will be right around that same amount. Building permits are another thing that really skyrocketed the last 2 years. And this year, our revenue is going to be about half of what it was the year before. And that's mainly due to people not building new homes because of the higher interest rates. So that's had a pretty big effect on our building permit revenue. Okay, so looking at the county's debt as a whole, I have heard a lot of people say, the county's virtually debt-free, and I just wanted to show what that means and list all of the debt that the county has and what the outstanding balances are. So we have our public safety building, which we owe a little over $3 million on. That is a lease revenue bond. So that is paid for from the rent we receive from the state. That's the building right behind the jail that we lease out to the state. And then we have our Newcastle Firehouse, which was new this year. So we received a $250,000 grant from CIB, money that we didn't have to pay back. And then with that, we got a $250,000 loan from CIB with a low, I think it's around a 1.5% interest rate. And it's a very minimal, like $7,000 payment a year. So
And that was a much needed infrastructure out in that rural area. They just
Right.
really needed that.
right, and we could, I mean, if we wanted to, pay that off, but we got the grant from them. And then we have the Shakespeare Theater bond. There's a little over $1 million left. And Maria was talking about tourism dollars this morning in her report. We receive half of that bond payment from the TRCC restaurant sales tax, and the other half comes from the hotel tax. So that's where those two sources of revenue come from to pay that bond payment. And then the last one is a special assessment tax bond. This is just for the Sunset subdivision. I believe it was back when they were doing their roads, and we collect property taxes from the property in that subdivision that pays for this bond. So it's really kind of a pass through. We collect the money, pay the bond, but it's those property owners.
It was a special assessment area for roads.
Their
Reed
roads.
was very involved in it, but yeah, each property owner owed about $17,000. Some paid it off immediately. Others have just kind of paid it with their taxes. And Iron County is, like you say, we're just kind of the pass through on that one.
Right.
We performed the work. I actually think we farmed it out, but we are the bond holder on that. And then
Yeah. So, yeah, there's no general obligation, no general fund debt. Looking at our fund balances, and our year doesn't really close out until usually April, May. We have revenue coming in through the next few months of the new year that is for the previous year, and then some invoices still coming in. So it's kind of hard to say where we're going to be at the end of this year. But when we finished our audit in May of this year, looking back to the end of 2022, once all of the revenue came in and all of the bills were paid, our fund balance increased pretty significantly in our general fund, and has over the last 2 years. As you saw, some of the revenue sources from our recording fees and building permits, that's due to this large increase in fund balance, is our revenues being higher than expected. And then our municipal services fund, which is the sheriff's department, fire, a few other smaller departments. The roads is a separate fund, but that fund balance has stayed pretty level over the last 5 years, which is good to see. So we have pretty healthy fund balances. Looking at our capital expenses that are going to be budgeted for next year. So the first thing is a jail, and I was preparing this the day of the election, so I had a question mark there. I didn't know, what the results were going to be there. So yeah, as of right now, we're not going to have anything with that, but we will see what is planned in the future there. $386,000 in road department equipment, which is about our yearly average. It's less than it was this year. We have a new parking lot for the Justice Center, which they'll be starting early next year. And for our landfill, so this...
Just on that one, Luke,
Yeah.
that is probably 10 years overdue. I mean, it is so
It
bad.
is so bad.
We've taken everything else kind of off the table to pay for that one project. Just little things in the county that we've had on our list, just so the public knows.
Okay. And then our landfill. So the landfill is an enterprise fund. It's treated as a separate business. So it doesn't receive any revenue or money from our general fund, or money goes back and forth. It's just the revenue that's collected at the landfill. They are they have proposed to buy a compactor, which is 1.5 million. That will extend the life of the landfill because they'll be able to compact all of the trash and all that more, where it will leave more space and a life for the landfill. Also, with the landfill, we budget to buy a garbage truck every other year. So next year, that's what we have in the budget for that. And then I just wanted to mention our fleet department. Over the last few years, we have been transferring money from our general fund and municipal services fund into the fleet department. We started that like 3 years ago, I believe. And there has been a lot of problems with it, taking longer than normal just because of the supply chain and them not being able to get vehicles. So we're still waiting on some vehicles, and I know Wade's getting quite a few in now. Hopefully by the end of next year we've become fully stocked
Yeah,
there, and then he'll rotate them out every 3 years or so.
We've had that same issue with the garbage trucks and the big dump trucks or graders or whatever.
Yeah.
The supply chain is just still not real great yet. So
Yeah, I know.
it's
Bruce
getting a
has-
little better, but it's
Bruce
still
has
not
ordered
back
a
to
few,
normal
and he isn't quite sure when they'll be
when
here.
they'll come. Yeah.
So that's where we are with capital expenditures. Not a whole lot going on there. I also wanted to show, maybe. Okay. I also wanted to mention our jail fund balance. So we have a separate fund that is specifically for the jail. And we did receive some more federal funds this year to help our budget. The last few years we received some ARPA COVID funds this
Good
year.
money.
This year we received I believe is the last of that. We haven't heard of any other funds coming in the future. But we moved all of that to the jail fund. And so that fund balance is going to increase. This is as of right now. We have over 17 million in that fund balance. And then we have paid for some things like the land and some of the expenses to the architect. So that's where we're at there. Salary and wages for 2024. So back in July of 2022, it was implemented by the commission to do a step and grade, which I think we had done years ago, and it hadn't been in place for years. So
They took it back. Yeah.
it was relooked at with HR. They did a lot of studies looking at other counties, cities, and comparing wages there. And we started the step and grade process in July of 2022. And then there was going to be no step until January of 2024. So in 2023, there was no step and there was no COLA. And each step is 1.5%. So every year it's a 1.5% increase. For next year, HR had proposed an 8% COLA for 2024. This was based on looking at what the state and other counties, cities have done, and just the inflation that has hit everyone, so hard. Even the county's cost in supplies and materials has gone up significantly. So they had proposed at 8% for next year. After looking at it, the commission proposed that we do a 5% just based on where we're at with our budget, and that is what is included in this budget. Just to compare, I know the school district did a 6.6% COLA this year. Then the state did a 5%. Other counties throughout the state have done anywhere from 4 to 8%. Notable salary and wage changes or job position changes. We previously had a position that was half-time in the weed department and then half-time in our road department. It was kind of hard to figure that out with taking vacation time, comp time that was earned. most of it was taken while the employee was in the road department, but it was earned while he was doing the weeds. And just the timing in the year, it was kind of hard to manage all that. We did have a group, Marilyn might know if it's
It's a weed board. That's the county
Okay.
weed board
Okay.
that we've met with several times, and all of the Department of Ag have met with us. They were very, very concerned that we were going to eliminate the weed board, which we are mandated to do by the state. We have to have a weed department and supervisor. So, you know, Casey did such a great job, but it was very difficult for him to get his spraying when he was having to run back over and help him chip seal, and you know, so I think this is going to be a good thing. He didn't have time to do some of the grants that he could have done the last 2 years. I think this new person will be able to have plenty of time to write grants, which will be very helpful for that department. And it's a very valuable. I had a lot of the farmers come to me and just was freaking out that they was concerned that we wasn't going to have a weed department, and we have to. I mean, it's mandated by the state that we have that. So I think it's going to be helpful to go to a full-time position. There's a lot of training involved. They have to have certifications. And so I think it's going to be very helpful. But.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of support in that. So that's what's being proposed, is changing that to a full-time position. And as she mentioned, there are grants for that. I think two or 3 years ago was the last time we received a grant for that, and we received about $40,000. And I don't know if it was the feds or the state, that guy that came and presented, but
yeah, that was the state, and
they offered a lot of
and they
assistance
offered
in
help,
that.
and the Department of Ag have offered to help write those grants right now. So
that'll be a big part of this position, is getting grant money to fund the weed department as well. Other significant changes is with our attorneys. It's been proposed to raise them 3 grades, which each grade is 5%. So that'd be a 15% raise for the attorneys, based on Washington County, I believe Kane County. Their attorneys have been raised a lot, so we risk losing them, and there's been talk there of losing some of our attorneys, which are harder to replace. And then in our IT department, I think we have 7 or 8 positions there, but 3 of the positions, it was felt by our IT department head that we needed to raise 3 of those positions by 1 grade or 5%. There's a lot of demand in the IT field. They switch jobs all the time. It is hard to get someone trained to where they know, our system, they know our website and all that. So that's being proposed as well. If we look at some other significant impacts for next year's budget, last commission meeting, this was discussed by our county attorney and our CJC director, Wendy Jessen, about this grant, VOCA grant payback that we have to do. There was and just to keep it short, there was an audit done, and our previous director, there were a lot of steps that were being missed, a lot of checks and balances that were being missed at that time, with counseling and contractors that we were paying. So we are ordered to pay back $358,000. So that's included in the budget next year. There was a legislative bill passed last year that will bring more funding to county and cities for their roads. So our road department, we will receive $1.4 million in January to go to our road department. And this has been huge because we usually transfer some money from our municipal services fund to our road department fund. And this year we will not need to do that because of this extra funding. So that'll help our municipal services fund significantly. When we started the budget process, Maryland had been to a meeting where it was mentioned that they had asked each department just to kind of look at their budget, and if they needed to cut their budget by 5%, where they would cut it. So we did this activity in our county, and I think it really helped each department kind of look at what it was necessary and proposed where they would cut their budget if they needed to. Some departments actually did cut their budget, and then others we had very small ask this year, very small increases. And then our interest revenue has been significantly higher than we had budgeted for with the high interest rates this year, and it looks to stay that way for the foreseeable future.
Can I just say that I appreciate the budget process this year. Everybody was so great this year. They like you said, they cut. I really appreciate the departments coming in and working with us, and they were really great. I just want to say and thank you to all the departments for that.
Yeah,
I'll echo that.
Really smooth. Okay, and then just in summary, overall, so inflation, as I mentioned, it's increased our costs as well. So we have received some additional revenue and sales tax from that, but it is hurting us because our supplies, materials, wages have all increased as well. I did budget our revenue more frugally this year based on the economy kind of slowing down. It's not like it's crashing or anything, but has slowed down to where some of our revenue sources will be lower next year. A recession, it's always, a concern talking about a recession and how that could have a big impact on our county. I did find this, from some economists doing a study. It says, despite higher interest rates and persistent inflation, the economy continues to grow in 2023. Because of this, economists believe there's no recession in sight. So, that's good, looking for the future. And then overall, Iron County continues to be well managed and fiscally responsible. And you can see that in our fund balances at the end of last year and start overall budget. So that's all that I have. So we'll open up the
Okay, Luke,
public hearing.
thank you. We'll go ahead and on item number 1, we'll open a public hearing regarding the 2024 proposed budget. If you would like to speak, please state your name and
It's not you. No. I just need to switch this.
Oh. Oh, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and move on to public appointments. Public comments. This is a 3-minute time limit per speaker for public comment, and if you could state your name, that'd be nice.
I think I'm froze up. Are you?
No, you're seeing my screen. You switch.
My name is Carol Barker. On Tuesday, November 21st, the voters of Iron County once again said no to the proposed $90 million jail. With nearly 64% opposed, they very clearly and loudly said no. Have you finally heard the people? Better yet, are you finally listening? Since August 15th, the people have been repeatedly saying no to increased taxes and debt spending. The commission has been tone deaf to the community and has continued to plow forward with their plans for a multi-million-dollar jail complex. The county commission has signed contracts with out-of-town construction and engineering firms, purchased property, and continues to develop relationships with various vendors. All of these actions taking place before any funding was secured. Talk about putting the cart before the horse. Most people are not opposed to a new jail or an upgrade to the existing facility. What they are opposed to is having this multi-million-dollar project shoved down our throats. During the many public meetings held between August 15th and November 1st, any alternative options or ideas were met with a can't do it or it can't be done response from county officials. There was only one option that the county was willing to entertain, and that was a new jail complex at any expense. Quite often at these meetings, the county officials dominated the conversation and spoke for extensive periods of time that members of this community became frustrated and left without an opportunity to speak. The message sent by the county was that they did not want to hear what the people had to say. The community has been threatened with civil rights abuse lawsuits. A commissioner publicly wrote that essential services might need to be cut throughout the county, and another commissioner has publicly stated that if the bond was not passed, they would take the case to the state Supreme Court. Then there is the final threat of another Truth in Taxation Act that would raise property taxes to fund building the jail complex. These intimidation and bullying tactics have not worked. In fact, they have strengthened the resolve of the people. The voters have clearly spoken, and we want to find another solution. There are many talented and experienced people in this county, men and women with construction experience, engineers, grant writers, researchers, lobbyists, men and women who have valid options to offer. It is evident that the current jail facility has serious issues, and that deserves its own investigation. But our problem at hand is, what do we need to do to meet the basic requirements for a county jail? This is going to require out-of-the-box thinking, and we need to find a common sense and fiscally responsible solution. We need a focused and transparent plan to move forward. It's time to stop the threats and bullying tactics and reach out to the community. Build bridges and mend fences. We need to work together to find the best solution for Iron County. Let's tap into the vast resources of experience found locally and find a solution that is in the best interest of the entire county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Susan Stubby. I just want to say that, you know how they tell us that politics starts on the local level? Well, that is in fact very true. Unfortunately, in Iron County, as you discussed, Mr. Cousins, about the fact that you've been talking about this jail for 3 years, shame on the community for not paying attention. I myself included, okay? But you have to remember that 3 years ago, life was a lot different for everyone, for the county, for the people who live here, for America itself. We were all doing very well financially and economically. Employment was at its highest. Inflation was at its lowest. Interest rates were extremely low, as was indicated by your auditor, okay? So shame on us for not paying attention. But we started to pay attention when it started to affect our pocketbook. So here is what I'd like to ask of you. And Ms. Wood, I want to thank you very much for reaching out to the state representatives. I think that is a great start. It's gratifying to know that they're going to work with us to try and get us that consumption tax, which will kind of take some of the burden off of the community. I think that's all that the people wanted you to know. And it wasn't ignorance that they opposed the jail. It's not about ignorance. It's about the fact that we cannot afford it. You have seen that in your budget, as Lucas indicated, that your the inflation rate has affected you as well. Your revenue stream is down and your sales tax is down, all of that due to inflation. So you're suffering just like we are. So all we ask is that you understand why it is we voted the way that we did. What I would like to ask of you is that the community, we've met several times. We've met privately, amongst ourselves. We met with you. Is there a way that the commission can have a public hearing with the community? And like Carol had indicated, there's a lot of people here in the community that are well versed at grant writing and have great ideas, financial analysts who can come up with maybe plans to fund the jail. It's not that we're opposed to a jail. We know that we need infrastructure, and we know that we need the law enforcement and whatever that entails. However, we just can't afford it all on our own at $90 million. So is there a way for you to have a meeting, public hearing like you did on August the 15th, and ask the community to come out and people stand up and commit to helping work with you? It's an arduous task. And I'm asking the community to come out and help. And as you can see, Carol and I have been here now since this whole jail thing started. I wasn't here before that. Shame on me, okay? But all of us should be involved in what's going on in our community, because it actually reflects on us financially, impacts us as it relates to justice and law enforcement. So all of this is critical to all of us. So shame on the community that the only two people here that we're opposed to the jail bond. It seems to be Carol and I. And we're not opposed to law enforcement. All we're opposed to is the price. So my question is, can you have a meeting, and I don't know if it's legal, have a meeting with the public, ask people to come out and commit to helping you try to fund the jail and maybe other resources that you may need in other departments as well, and ask the community, if this is so important to you, then get involved. And I myself will be committed to helping you any way that I can. And so if that's possible, I'd like to know if that is something that you can entertain.
John?
Well, we've had lots of meetings, and on your Iron County Tax Watch group, I've watched, and I read some of it, but there's a lot of individuals on there that come up with ideas that are totally unreasonable. They haven't been to a single meeting. They continue to tell us that we should remodel the old jail and that we can fit this and that on there when they don't know what they're talking about. And that doesn't help your cause much.
No. And that's my point. This is why I'm here right now.
Because there's no grants available to pay for a jail. So you can find all the grant writers you want, but there's no grants available to pay for a jail. They're just not. We've tried all of these. Believe me, this hasn't been a fun process.
But you can be of help to us. Like I said earlier, we really, really need the community to help us if that tax, that consumption tax, is something that everybody thinks is a great idea, which I do too. If we're able to raise enough revenue to pay the jail payment, it's great, because even all the tax people, the tourism people coming in, they pay part of our jail, which is great.
Right. So how do we build that bridge, Ms. Wood? How do we build that bridge? How do we mend the fence that has been broken by people who are so adamant about the fact they feel that this has been kind of rammed down their throat? It's either this or nothing at all.
I don't think it has been rammed down anybody's throat. We've had meeting after meeting after
yes,
meeting
I
after
understand
meeting.
That. I understand
We've had
that.
5-hour public hearings. We've had
It's the
comments.
education that hasn't. Yeah, and some people just haven't wanted to engage.
I think, though, that what people have discovered is that there is a need. It's not that there's not a need. There is a need. But the need should not fall and be burdened by the people who live here, because just like all of you, your budget has been slashed. So has the income of majority of people who live in Iron County. And if this was 2017, 2018, 2020, when life was good under the previous administration, I think that this would have been a non-issue.
tried it. You should go back and watch some of the public hearings we had.
And like I said,
in
shame on me.
2020.
Yeah.
Go back and watch them,
Okay.
ma'am, because it was brutal. Okay.
You said that was because it was not in my backyard.
It was. You could go back
everything.
And read it. I
Okay.
mean,
Which we thought we could fund it with our current, income, but after inflation has killed us, we couldn't do that anymore. So what do? You go to the taxpayers to.
So we have a woman who was at one of our meetings, and she did some research and funds that are available. She even did research in regards to funds that are available even to the school district as it relates to replacing their artificial turf. The state has funds allocated for that. So the school district doesn't need to burden the people with that. All they need to do is go to the state and ask the state. Now, I'm not saying that everything is go to the state and daddy will provide everything. That's not what I'm saying. But she has come up with solutions or opportunities for solutions. And if you need us as a collective group, because our Iron County Tax Watch group, there's many people on there. If you want us, we can do a letter writing campaign whereby we approach both of our representatives and say, this is what we need. We
would
need
love
your help.
For you to
We're
help
open
us.
to all
Okay.
suggestions.
We
Okay.
absolutely are.
Perfect. Let's start
and some
there.
of that grant writing, if there's something that we have missed somewhere, have those folks come. But we have asked, and we have not found out of any grants that pay for a jail.
So how do we approach you? Like, how do we get?
Call us. I have people call all the time, and I
Commissioner
just
cell numbers
answer
are on the
phone.
county website.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can call you and schedule
Anytime.
a
Their
meeting.
personal cell, it's right on the county
Okay,
website.
perfect. Okay, so now we have some
In fact,
direction.
we're not kings or queens or whatever. I mean, I answer the phone all the time. I deal with the public constantly, I'm over the road, so we have road issues all the time, especially road issues. But we'll visit with anybody.
So I will tell you that our group, because we feel that we cannot let this die, because there's going to be other issues in the community that are going to have to come up, and people need to be aware of it. And, we've kind of lived in the dark, and now it's time for us to wake up and realize that we need to be involved. It's not just you three who tell us what to do. We all need to be involved in the community, however we can help. So the first week of January, and I forget what day it is, but it's a Wednesday, I believe, we have a meeting scheduled with the public at the Cedar City Library. If I sent you that information, can one or several of you attend so that you can talk to us and we can talk to you?
What day is that?
Carol, do you remember what day that is?
If you'll send us,
I'm
I
going to
will.
be out of the
Something.
country for a few weeks, so I
Okay.
probably won't be here.
but
Are you available, Miss Wood?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the
And
third.
Mike
at 6
probably
o'clock,
could
isn't it,
come
Carol?
also.
Yeah, first Wednesday of January, the 3rd at 6 o'clock at the Cedar City Library.
What day was it?
The
January?
3rd, January 3rd.
January 3rd, I'll be back for that. But if we, as commissioners, if two or more, if
Yes,
at
I
least
know
two
the
show
law.
up, we have to public notice the meeting. If we're going to be engaging with the
Right.
public, we have to notice it as a public meeting.
Well, we'll send you all an email.
We're
And-
open to all suggestions. We've never, and I suspect there's two of you here for this, and normally we don't engage like this in public
Right, I
comment.
understand.
We're kind of doing it today, but there's two of you here today on this. Talk about the Feld bond
Mm-hmm.
for the jail, but when you start talking about a consumption tax and raising sales taxes, I suspect this room will be filled. So
Right, and-
there'll be a whole nother group opposed to that. And the challenge you have with that is if we raise sales, the proposal is a 3rd through 6th class counties to be able to raise up to a 1% sales tax to go just towards a
Toward-
jail.
yeah.
But if we, the math I've done, I think it would be, in my opinion, it would be foolish for us to raise sales tax a lot, because if our sales tax is higher than neighboring counties, then they go down there to buy their large purchases, and we lose out on our businesses suffer because they lose out on that tax revenue.
I understand.
And we lose out as government entities on that income to run the entities. And so it's a real tricky, it's a whole nother, as upset as people are about property taxes, there's going to be a whole nother group upset about the other tax. Do you right?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Anytime you mention tax, I don't
Yeah.
like the word either. Okay,
I don't
But-
either.
No, but the whole thing is that I think that the consensus of people were, even at your first meeting on August the 15th, if I recall, a lot of people said, "Why can't we do a consumption tax?" I think it's more palatable because everyone is sharing in the expense, not just property owners. So it's countywide, and there are, from what this person who did the research for us says, that there are other opportunities. And even if we just get $1 million here and $3 million there, it's less of a burden to the community. And I think it would be a good faith effort, not only on your part, but also on the community. And let me just assure you that we will get that message out. We'll do it through our Facebook page and by word of mouth, just like we got out the word that we don't want this bond. No one wants a truth in taxation either. So one way or the other, we need to sit down and hammer this out because we need the facility, and yet the people don't want to pay for it. So how do we do that?
And
That's the problem.
And jail bonds historically do not pass.
That's
And
why
we understand the one
That's-
up
that's-
north
started
didn't.
out
we
with
pretty
the
much
truth
knew
in
that was
taxation.
where it was
Yeah.
going to go.
Right.
But you saw the sheriff's report. Crime has increased by 30% from last year in Iron County.
And that's due to the fact that people are struggling. You know, when the economy tanks and people don't have money, desperate times call for desperate measures. So I understand that, and I'm not saying we don't need a jail. All I'm saying is that we have to find a different revenue stream to fund it. And if you guys are willing to work with us, I'm willing to get the people out there. And if that fails, if people don't come out, well then shame on them, because then the burden rests with us that we did not participate when asked.
Well, and that's what happened, like I said, in 2020.
Yeah.
We tried
We
you saw the
tried and
chart.
tried.
Interest rate was here, and it went like this. I mean,
And
we were
I'm
desperate,
guilty
and
of
we
that
were
too, Mr.
accused,
Cousins.
and we were accused of being nefarious, sneaky, trying to push this through without anybody knowing about it. It was, go back and watch the hearings.
So
This
has been a good discussion,
This has
but
been.
we're about 6 times past our
Yes.
3 minutes.
I
But I
appreciate your
do
time.
believe though, I think there's value in maybe having a discussion offline, and kind of talking that through with the commissioners that way.
Okay.
But yeah, we're
We are, and I wanted some of this to be on the record, so.
yeah.
Thank
okay.
you very much. I
But,
appreciate
thank
the
you.
extended time.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other public
Oh,
comments?
one more.
Oh, Jamie?
Let's see.
Jeannie Bartholomew, and I'm going to comment on some of the comments that were made. And if you attended the meetings and you listened to all the meetings, and if you've been on this for 10 years, and yeah, shame on you if you haven't been, but this wasn't done on ignorance. The commissioners were not ignorant on this. Okay, said 64% voted no on this thing, and I think probably, I bet 50% of that didn't even know what they were voting, why we needed one or not, because the majority of those didn't come to the meetings. The commission has never been deaf to anything that anyone has said, because they have been to these meetings, they've listened to everybody. Just because they don't agree and go towards your way doesn't mean that they're deaf. It just means that they're more educated than you are, than what's needed for our county. They have never threatened anybody with any lawsuits. They have never threatened to take this to the Supreme Court. It has only been reported that the current jail did not pass before. And it wasn't the commissioners that took that to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court mandated that be done. It was not the commissioners that did that. And the lawsuits was not threatened by the commissioners also. That was brought up by our corrections facility. It was brought up by our county jail, our sheriff. It was brought up by the committee that, by the people who are building the jail with all their experiences with that. People complained that they wanted things like Arizona to do that. Well, it was only brought up, was not threatened. It was brought up that now there are at least, what, was it 200, Sheriff? How much money in the lawsuits now? Over 200 million. Wasn't threatened that was going to happen here. It was just stated that it could happen here, which surprised me it hasn't already. They were saying that we bought land and spent money for the things that we didn't have already, that the funds were not available. We already purchased land and did all that. No funds were available. Those funds were available. If you'd been to the meetings, if you've read the minutes, if you've listened to the commissioners, you know and repeatedly know that has been told and told again, that those funds were set aside for the jail. That money was spent on the land to secure the land for the jail. Didn't say that we secured the land to build the jail on it already, because we're going to get one already. It says they secured the property to have it. We buy property to secure a place to build our homes also. Same thing. You talk about we were doing well before, when the commissioner talked about we tried this before. And being with I was in the area that it was supposed to be approved of before. I was excited about having it there. But I went back to a minute, out of everyone that talked, there was maybe 10 people that showed up, the majority that was against this. I bet 9 out of 10 of those were people who have moved in here from out of town. And they repeatedly said that this was going to be a prison, and it wasn't a prison, it's a jail. I've been to these meetings, and they talked about there's been alternative ideas. I didn't hear any alternative ideas. The only one I did was with what was it, John, again?
Bill Pressgrove?
Consumption.
Yeah, Bill Pressgrove was bringing that up with the tax. That's the only one I heard. And I put it all down in minutes because I'm required to put it down what everybody says. The county has had valid options, you said, to build with those things and people in the county. Again, if you've been to the meetings and you've listened to the people talk and you listen to the people who know and are experts on this, yes, we do have a lot of people in Iron County that can do that, but none that is qualified to build a jail facility in the size that it is. Yes, we have people that can be subcontracted out, and it's been said over and over again at those meetings that we would use, though they plan on using all local people for that. The consumption taxes, yes, that's a good thing. It will not pay for all of the jail. We talked about the lady that's gone online and looking for grants. I have been on there, I don't know how many times, looking for grants to help our county out. Cannot find any. Everything goes back to the state. The state won't even help us with the thing. So they kept talking about how the commissioners talked and talked and talked and talked. But apparently they have to keep talking because people are still not listening. And I can see by these comments that were made today that still not listening. And I've listened and I've read from the stuff with the tax group. And I back up Paul Cousins, that a lot of them don't even know what they're talking about. They get the information, they think they're right. Apparently they're not listening to the minutes, they're not coming to the commission meetings because they still don't got it right, and they're still not listening, and that's why the commissioners have to continue to repeat everything that they say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close that portion and go to number 3, discussion and possible approval of the revised interlocal fire agreement for 2023.
Okay. Sam, do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to?
If you are prepared to speak to it, I'm not prepared to speak to it, but I can certainly. Commissioner Blake obviously is not here to.
I will speak as
just-
cogently as I'm able. Please don't be
I'll chip in.
disappointed.
I'll chip in.
Okay. So this is a renewal of the of a revised interlocal fire agreement for 2023. And in fact, Ryan, could you maybe speak to maybe what is different on this, and kind of where we're? I think the narrative on this is as important as anything else.
I can't speak much to it. I saw the original draft and made some comments, but I never saw the second draft that came out. And the comments that I had with the original was, I felt like that we were handing the city a blank check. They're asking for, and it affects Enoch more than it does the county, but they were asking for funds for the entities to pay, or the participants to pay into a fund that later we would have no control over as a county or Enoch City. And like I say, I haven't seen the latest draft. I don't know if that was addressed.
It's in our packet.
It was in the packet. There was some discussion about even like placement of firehouses in the future.
Yeah.
Concerns about leveraging
The
assets.
draft that I saw leaves all of the control within Cedar City. And so if they're going to build a new station, purchasing equipment, basically
We have no say.
Yeah, we have no say, nor does Enoch. And my concern is over and over, we're seeing increased staffing and we're seeing additional stations being built within Cedar City after Enoch has screamed for help for a station in Enoch, which is likely never going to happen when Cedar City continues to control where that goes.
Focus was on the south end.
Yeah.
For Cedar, right?
Yeah, and that's concerning to me that we're continuing to pay. And like I say, my concern is more with what Enoch, or lack of what Enoch is actually going to see. So like I say, I didn't see the revisions. I sent some suggestions, and I don't know if those suggestions made it into.
Sam, how urgent is this one? I mean, we've bumped it one meeting already.
Sure. No, I think the city is looking to take action soon in the next month here.
But they're a fiscal year entity, right? And so
Correct.
other than Luke trying to budget,
I'd like Ryan to look at the revisions. I think that would be
Okay.
really good if we could table this and then we could bring it back on the 13th.
And one of the things that was brought up in the discussion initially for this agreement was to try to have a more concrete amount for what the building fund would look like. I don't know if it's necessarily a blank check. Just there may be some uncertainty for the coming years, though. This would be a 5-year agreement, so something to take into consideration right now. I believe it's listed at $487,000 plus as a contribution from the county for a building fund. But as it says in at least the draft that I reviewed, that's subject to annual review. which means, again,
It could
there's
go
the
up.
uncertainty that
And
Mr.
in the
Riddle
final
discussed.
paragraph, it stated that Cedar City would retain all titles, ownership, and there again, if Cedar City retains those titles and ownership, the county and Enoch and
And we're
Canaryville is also a
contributing
participant.
to them.
Yeah, it's continually, and in my opinion, those participants need to come together to make the decision based off of the fire chief's recommendations on where placement of personnel and stations should be. It's concerning to me that Cedar City is going to retain ownership and decide where that funding goes.
And maybe that's for a larger discussion, because as it is right now, that this agreement won't change that, because that's how we currently pay in right now. If we were looking at a long-term goal of having our own fire district, then maybe that would be something to consider. But there may be a need to further discuss our seat at the table for how these funds are utilized. But as it is right now, I don't believe anywhere in this draft or the second that's changed. But again, this was the intent behind this agreement is to firm up contributions for the building fund. If we need to go back to them and ask for a little more clarity on the next 5 years, I think that's reasonable, but that's not something I've been made aware of as far as
When I spoke with Commissioner
Proposed changes.
Blake about it while he was here last week, he had several concerns. One was maybe it's time to start discussing a fire district.
So Ryan and I have talked about that, and the 5 county have monies, grants that we can maybe get to research that for a
We're seeking funding for a study.
Yeah.
And that study would be county-wide, and if municipalities want to be included in that study, then they can opt in or they can opt out.
And I believe, I mean, that's a years-long process, I think, to go from where we are to there. And then I think also getting Cedar City on board would be probably the biggest hurdle there. And to Sam's point, in the meantime, you know, this is the mechanism that we have in place. And I think the last concern that Commissioner Blake expressed to me was that this would put our contributions, and maybe Luke can correct me if I'm wrong, but well over $1 million a year. Is that correct?
It was about 700,000.
7. Okay. So not over $1 million. Okay.
It's
So what
significant.
happens if we do this study and we want to change, and this is a 5-year agreement? How does that?
I mean, there are provisions where we could terminate the agreement, but it requires more notice than you would typically otherwise find. A year, probably. I don't recall exactly what actually, it says can be terminated, providing 90 days notice for the entire fiscal year. The notice is given, so it would have to be prior to next fiscal year before, if we wanted to opt out.
Opt out.
You could get a concrete amount this year and then play that in the meantime. I don't
So
know.
June 30th minus 90 days, so March, April.
March, yeah.
Yeah. So
When are we thinking that study's going to be able to go forth?
We'll apply for the funding. The application is due in February, and we'll apply for the funding for the study. And Cedar City is interested in participating in that city.
Oh, they did say they
It's
will.
the rumors that I'm hearing.
They-
With Iron County, Enoch, and Canaryville contributing into their budget, that's 41% of the fire department's budget in Cedar City. So that's a significant amount of loss that they could stand to lose if they decided to opt out. The biggest contributor in that is obviously Iron County. So,
And late last week, I had a conversation with Nate Weiberg, and he was very supportive. And I said, well, maybe the three of us ought to have a conversation maybe this week.
Yep.
At
So
least
my
to try to get
plan
that
is to get through the holiday, and then we could engage in that.
When's our next commission meeting?
13th of December.
Okay.
Is that
I think between now and
in the window?
I think it would be appropriate to table this while we go have a quick conversation, and not quick, but I mean a conversation, and discuss more in depth about what the long-term ramifications would be, if there's anything we can do to kind of hedge that, and then revisit this on the 13th.
It's urgent for Cedar City, but maybe not as urgent for us. Okay.
Yeah.
Any
But
other
whatever
questions?
you would like to do, you can authorize,
that
I think,
be fine.
to continue the discussion. You can
table it. I think you could authorize temporary approval of an agreement subject to certain conditions, but
Thank you, Ryan.
again, there may be more questions than answers right now.
I know that Commissioner Blake has been fairly active on this as well, so
Correct.
maybe a little more time would be good to kind of pin down some of these question marks.
Sure.
I'd feel better about that.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to table number 3 and come back to it on the 13th.
Sounds good.
I'll second that. Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. Susan and
Did
Carol.
Did they have other comments? Did
well,
anybody
I
else?
just wanted to. My mind's been thinking about your comments, and this is probably out of line, but and the attorney can throw something at me. But as a commission, I think I speak for all of us. We really appreciate your engagement in this process because a lot of people don't get engaged, and we appreciate, even though you're on the other side of this, we do appreciate you coming. We really do, and we're open to all suggestions. We always have been, but there's been suggestions on the internet to get the prisoners to remodel the jail. I'm sorry, but we can't give prisoners sawzalls and skill saws. It doesn't work. So, just so the public knows that jails are the most complicated buildings to build that there are, flat out. And I've been in construction for 40 years. I've got 40 years experience in this field. And I've been a remodel guy all my life. I've fought to remodel buildings instead of tearing them down. It's not possible with this one. It is not possible. And so, like I said in my comments, if the voters want to remodel, vote me out and find somebody else because I won't vote for it. But if you have other suggestions for grants, other sources of funding, we're all ears. We always have been. But this problem is not going away. You saw crime rates increase that much, whatever factors. I'm sure there's plenty of factors that attribute to that, but this is not going away. Whether it's during my term or Maryland's or somebody else's, this problem is going to continue to get worse. And the longer we delay it, the worse it's going. So we appreciate the engagement. We're open to 10 meetings. If it's more than 2 of us, we may have to notice as a public meeting, and I'm happy to attend that meeting on the 3rd. So anyway, I just wanted to say that before you ladies leave. Okay, thank you. So
I have one more comment too about that. So we had to hire those folks to come in and help us because how do you get a bond if you don't know how much you're going to do the bond? That was the reason why we hired those preliminary. We just hired them preliminary so that we could get the costs and what we had to do to go after a bond. There's no way that you would know. You can't pull it out of the air and decide, what you need to do for that. But I also appreciate you folks for engaging and coming forward.
Rest with us as well.
Yeah.
Because we cannot say that we did not know because you were talking about this for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
The only reason that people have started to be aware and wake up is because it affects our pocketbook now.
Yeah.
So let's make it conducive for not only the county, but from the people who live.
Right.
There's got to be a way to figure this out.
There's just simply not, as Jeannie mentioned, there's subcontractors that can easily work on a project like this, but there's not a general contract. This is way out of the realm of general contractors in this area. They just, it takes a big D, a Leighton, a Jacobson, one of these big, huge contractors to do a project like this. It's not,
because we want it done right.
you cannot.
That's our biggest thing as commissioners. If it's not going to be done right, we don't want to do it.
We want a 50-year-old jail that's going to surpass 50 years.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, so thanks I just wanted to, I'm probably out of line by anyway. Number 4, discussion of possible approval of the pre-annexation agreement with Phoenix City, Iron County, and Nelson Family Land LLC, and Gary/Caroline Howe Family Trust, located in the vicinity of 3695 North, 940 East, Cedar City, Utah. Parcel boundary adjustment leaving a non-conforming parcel to be annexed into Phoenix City. And this is APN numbers D-658-1 and D-661. Reed.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is simply a way around a problem of adjusting lots that would not conform with the zoning. So we're trying to accommodate a request to do a parcel boundary adjustment in the R5 zone that would create a lot that's smaller than R5. And their intention is to attach that to another parcel that's already in the city and annex it into the city. And so this is a special agreement this is located here you can see just on the south side of Enoch City, between Enoch and Cedar in the unincorporated area and part of the incorporated area. So these are the zoning and the parcels around the area. Just zooming in, this shows there's an existing parcel boundary right here that creates a larger lot and a 5-acre lot. This is a 5-acre lot right here. This lot line would go away, and right here, this lot line would go away, and this lot line would go away, so that this parcel is currently in the city, and this parcel is not. And so they would expand this parcel, annex that into the city, allow this to remain in the unincorporated area attached to this lot. So it's simply trying to make a way that they can take a portion of a property, do a lot line adjustment in the unincorporated area, then annex that as a legal lot so that we don't create an illegal lot. So that's what this process is. It's a special agreement. Lester Ross is here, our good friend Lester, to represent the family's interest, answer any questions that you have. But this is just a special pre-annexation agreement, doesn't require a public hearing or anything. This is an action of the County Commission to consider this agreement. It's on the agenda, as I understand it, for Enoch City Council meeting for Wednesday evening. There, it's a three-way agreement between, and the city would agree to annex this parcel. We are agreeing to have it annexed, and we are willing to create it as a non-conforming smaller parcel than zoning, because it would then be annexed and wouldn't be getting a building permit or anything. There are conditions in the permit that prohibit it from being able to build or get a building permit in the county. It has to be annexed, and there's timelines. And so I think that it makes sense, and there's a way to solve this problem for the family.
Okay.
So, Lester, do you have any other comments you want to add?
State your name.
State your name.
Lester Ross, representing Nestling Family Farms. Just to clarify, we are creating, we're adding to the one parcel, and we're creating a smaller 0.87 parcel. So there'll be one portion will be going on to a lot that's existing in Enoch, and we're making a new parcel. Actually, it's not a new parcel. The lot line will create another parcel that will go into Enoch as well.
They will be annexed.
Oh, they will.
So same number of parcels, though.
Same number of parcels.
Yeah.
We're just trying to take the house out from the farm is all we're trying to do.
And
That
have
makes
it
sense.
annexed. And that way, there would just be this remainder parcel on the north that stays in the unincorporated area. So that's why in the agreement, there's 3 legal descriptions of the parcels that are being involved.
Okay.
I guess we can
I
have a
don't-
motion.
I don't have anything.
I would move for approval of the pre-annexation agreement with Enoch City, Iron County, and the Nelson Family Land LLC and Gary and Caroline Howe Family Trust, located in the vicinity of 3695 North, 940 East, Cedar City. Adjustment, partial boundary adjustment, leaving a non-conforming parcel to be annexed into Enoch City.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go to, is that it, Reed?
Thank you very much.
Wow, that's it?
We're saving them all up for next time.
Don't do that. There's only going to be 2 of us here next time.
All right, we'll go to personnel. Jennifer.
Hello.
Mine's going to be super quick too. In the assessor's office, Dora Nelly Garcia has passed the required testing to receive bilingual pay effective day November 26, 2023. And that's all I have today.
I would move to approve Jennifer's description of A.
All right. It's been, and I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
County boards, I don't have anything. Do you, Mary?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
I think we're good at this
All
point.
right. So we'll declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.